Hey everyone, fascinating chat today. Reusable identity is having its real app store moment, and Trua is betting that faster trust and continuous compliance with real privacy can make a huge difference out there. Raj, how are you?
I'm doing well, Evan. Thanks for having me today.
Thanks for being here. Such an important conversation. Let's talk about identity. A reusable identity seems to be getting real. What's actually changed? Is it the tech landscape, the buyers, the sense of urgency, regulation? What say you, and how do you describe Trua's vision these days?
Trua's vision is basically helping the stoppage of the proliferation of data. I'm sure you've seen all kinds of data. Even recently, there was a big data breach of one of the credit unions, like
Mm,
TransUnion. I got a notification from LifeLock saying that there was a big breach. Um, the biggest issue is in the last 10, 15 years when the internet, e-commerce and digital transactions have taken off. A lot of scammers have entered the scene. Many people um, take advantage of vulnerable people on the other side of the wire, so to speak. So what happens in that case is people mimic identities, and it has exploded since the advent of AI in the last year, 24 months or so. So one of the things that we said is there a way to verify the identity of an individual
mm,
without actually collecting their personal information all the time? Today, for every digital transaction, what you have to do is collect personal information like social security, date of birth, address, or other forms of ID. But is there a way to verify the individual without collecting it? There are tools that are coming out for that is just verifies the identity as a human being. But yes, you can verify that I'm a human being, but can you verify that I am Raj? So that is the biggest issue. So you want to combine the individual attributes of the individual, attributes of the person, at the same time also the facial recognition of the individual. So those two have to be combined to really zoom in on the identity. And that's why we are relentless in pursuing that passion for providing that identity. So, wouldn't it be great to get it once and then reuse it as many times as possible?
mm.
Right? So when you get your fundamental ID, which is basically the government issued ID, you get it once. You don't go for every transaction, go get your driver's license or passport. What you do is you get it once and then they authenticate. And of course, the scammers have come about with fake IDs and fake passports and so on and so forth. So it has multiplied the problem. So what is important is you get it once and then reuse it multiple times. And that's exactly what we have done. So for those folks out there, a simple analog would be a TSA PreCheck for the digital age. If you think about it, right, TSA PreCheck, you get it verified once, and then you can go into any airport or any airline or any secure area, and it related to transportation. So we are taking the concepts of TSA PreCheck. Just as a side note, we are the brains behind TSA PreCheck in our previous lives, the
Oh, wow.
management team. So what we are doing is we are bringing that to the commercial world and say, hey, you get it once where you verify the attributes of an individual, whether it's social security, date of birth, driver's license, or passport, and so on and so forth, and the liveness of the individual, which is the biometric piece. And then you lock it up into your digital wallet and use that ongoing. And the best part is it is continuously verified and updated. And that is the fundamental aspect of this whole, what I call a trust credential for life. You get it once, reuse it as many times. That way, you don't have to share your personal information like social for any transaction. I'll pause for a minute and then let you
Yeah, it's
ask.
it's it's a game changer. I mean, so important across the enterprise, but certain industries, verticals, even more so. Think healthcare. Hiring is so fast and furious, but very fragile. Talk about speeding onboarding without inviting credential fraud, which can be deadly for us.
That is correct. So In the last 15 years, lots of identity verification solutions have come up, right? Because everybody found out that there's a big issue. They all came up with siloed information, siloed solution. Like somebody says, hey, I'll verify your social security and date of birth and so on and so forth. And then what? So somebody else comes up with a fake ID. So how do you verify? Oh, I'll verify your facial or live scan or whatever it is. So they've become fragmented solutions for fragmented use cases. So we have enough point solutions in the market that it is literally like pulling your hair out, depending on what
Hmm.
market you're in or what problem you're trying to solve. So what we are trying to do is come up with a standard way of doing it. There's always a question, oh, it's high friction if you ask them to verify more than one attribute. The reason for that is because you have to keep doing that for every transaction, the high friction. But instead, you spend the 5 minutes once in your life and you get your life credential, and then it's always updated. After that, it's in seconds, whatever the verification happens. So people are looking at this high friction user interface from a different lens, the wrong lens, I should say, because it's, oh, we cannot compromise on identity, but at the same time, we cannot have an undue burden on the end users to verify more than one attribute. It is going to be the same issue. That's why I said, get it once, reuse it multiple times.
That's really compelling. And you work with so many different customers across industries. Where do they generally see ROI first? Is it time to hire, fewer rescreens, fewer support tickets, or any numbers you
Yeah.
can share?
One of the things that we have done is, right, we have taken the concept of the existing solutions out there, including the credit bureaus, right? But they're always done by a third party, which is basically somebody else does it on your behalf, but you're never in the loop of verifying your data. Your data is very important, right? You have gathered it over the years, and it's important that you verify it. Today, none of the solutions provide what we call a first party verification. First party verification is very important because you as an individual need to verify the data that's in your background and say, hey, this is me now. This is my dad, for example, or my brother. Sometimes those things get transposed because public data is very dirty and very, very unreliable. So you need to curate that. That is the reason why we are saying, hey, spend 3 to 5 minutes upfront to get your trust credential once, where you get to verify the data, and it's always current. That's very important, right? If something happens a month from now, you get the update. Let's say you get a new advanced degree or new professional license, right? It's already you say, hey, I have an update. It's updated. So whatever it becomes, it's an updated as is as of the moment accuracy. So that's another big thing. So when people are trying to use that for hiring, for example, right? They're saying, oh, it's already verified by the individual. I don't have to verify any of those things if something negative comes back because the candidate is in the loop. So the onboarding is literally next. As soon as they get interviewed and they can use the trust credential or Trua credential and say, oops, done, come on board the same day. Think about the speed to hire. Today it takes 5 to 10 days to get your background check. It's because it's done by a third party, and the current regulation says you can only do a background check when you are when after you have offered the job to the candidate. With our approach, you can get it anytime. You can get it ahead of time and say, hey, go get your True credential, and then boom, it's done, and you can be hired the same day. So think about in fast industries like restaurant workers or gig workers and so on and so forth. You're looking for somebody tomorrow, right?
Mm.
And or today perhaps. How do you get the candidate quickly onto the job site or onto the relying party, right? The way to do it is they have to be pre-vetted. In this, you cannot do that with the current infrastructure and the current process because it's highly regulated. Ours is the first non-regulated approach because you're letting the candidate verify all of the data ahead of time.
So important. And this is not theoretical, this is life and death. You recently blogged on your LinkedIn page. I'd encourage everyone to check out your LinkedIn page. Really insightful and informative around a tragedy on the Florida Turnpike with an unlicensed illegal truck driver who just a devastating crash, such a senseless loss and lives disrupted. What are some of the shortfalls in this sort of hiring and screening process that potentially could have been or might in the future be,
Well, in this case,
closed?
there's yeah. In this case, there is beyond, more than a truest approach because I always say continuous screening is very important in these high
Mm,
assurance sectors like truck driving, Uber, Lyft, DoorDash of the world, right? They may have done a, background check a year ago. Since then, a lot of things have happened in the individual's life
mm,
that could affect the ultimate end user. So that is a big issue. Continuous screening is very important. Ours is the only one that does that natively built into it. And the second thing I mentioned about this whole post is, which is tangential to what Trua does, which is the test of English as a foreign language. It's called TOEFL.
mm,
I am an immigrant to this country 40 years ago. I came. I had to take that exam to prove that I can speak English and understand English
mm,
before entering college into in United States.
mm.
Almost all foreign students are required to do that. Why can't you do the same thing to all of the foreign non-native speaking Uber drivers, truck drivers, all of those things? Make that as mandatory requirement for getting your license beyond licensure, requirements. Right? Yeah, you may require the driving requirement, but can they read the road signs in English? Can they follow the instructions? Right? If there is a accident ahead, there's a lot of neon signs showing up. Can they read that and follow the instructions? So I think they should make that. I'm going to urge the Department of Transportation, Homeland Security, and so on and so forth to make TOEFL as a requirement for all foreign non-native speaking drivers. That's a simple example.
Simple and so practical and logical.
Yeah,
I
because you're
really hope.
requiring for all the foreign students. Why not? These are all standard candidates, right? Just because they didn't go through the formal college process, they're coming through the side door. They should also be subjected to the same English language standards as rest of the college students.
Well said. So let's talk about over collecting of personal confidential information. Every time I change my gym or I go to a doctor or maybe a specialist, I'm giving my personal information, my social security number over and over and over again. It gets really tedious. How does Trua think about that problem and addressing that for good?
Because every sector with its healthcare, there's a different requirement because it's also
Mm,
regulated. Or if it is in the gym membership or in employment or other places, they all require different data collected from you. And the reason for the repeated collection is because they have to verify you over and over again. They don't have this standard process of verifying you. That is why this whole approach of like a TSA PreCheck, because when you go to TSA, which is the ultimate security issue, right? They don't keep screening you over and over again. They'll verify your identity right there. That's about it. But then, from a screening perspective, are you a threat to aviation or flying? They don't do that because you have that TSA PreCheck. It's the same concept because what we have done is TSA PreCheck, unfortunately, does not have identity verification, right?
mm,
Human identity, when I say identity verification. So we have folded that also into the Trua credential, which is basically your identity and your background all in one. And then let's say for a banking application like a KYC, AML, you have sanctions, watch list, and other things. So you just say, hey, I'm applying for a banking transaction. So they're looking to KYC me. So in my profile, I'll use a toggle button that says, I don't need to show anything else other than those three attributes that the banks require. Because you already have all of that in your wallet. You just enable the ones that you want to share. Same thing with medical, right? So it's the lack of having that option in society is what is forcing these people to collect all of that information. I tell my kids next time somebody's asking for too much information, have them sign a piece of paper that says that you're going to guard that data that belongs
Mm.
to you with your life and sign here. You sign here, I'll give you my data. If you start pushing back and say, hey, why do you need that data? Of course, you're usually dealing with the messenger there, right? Some, hey, I'm here just collecting the process. I'm collecting the information because that's what I'm told to do. Somebody has to fundamentally question that process. Hey, I'm repeatedly giving my information for every little transaction. That you should start avoiding. And that needs a national conversation and say, hey, why are we doing this over and over again? Isn't it simple to have just a, unbreakable code or token, I call it, and then every time you do that, and then it's verified by the like a bureau or something, and say, boom, done, because you're interested in verifying that you're not on the sanctions list, you're not on the watch list, you're not in the sex offender registry, or whatever it is that your application requires. Boom,
Mm.
done.
What a world that would be. I can't wait to see it realized with Trua. So if you're a business leader or maybe HR, security in an enterprise, and you want to put Trua in action 90 days, let's say, how do you plug in to a big enterprise? What are the non-negotiables? What does the deployment look like?
For Trua, one of the things that we have to have is the identity verified every which way from Sunday. That means
Mhm.
not just, oh, I do a facial scan. I know Raj on the other end, or I know Evan. But yes, I can say you're Evan, but are you really Evan? I can see your face. Yep, verified. But are you really Evan? Right? It's the same question that we ask. So we have to verify your attributes like social, date of birth, address, history, and so on and so forth, and then match it with your facial scan, and then say, okay, now all of those things are matching. That's 99.99% high assurance, so to speak, or assurance of your identity. And then all your background information is verified, and then it's shared. So enterprise is easy. You can start on day one because you don't
Wow.
need anything. You don't need any major software on your end. So we activate customers. We just signed recently a big credit union in the West Coast, and they're using our system, and they're ready to go on day one because what they do is the portal is set up with their logo and whatnot, and they start issuing invitation to the candidates they are trying to hire. Right? Hey, go get your Trua score. Boom, done. In 30 minutes or so, I mean, in less than 5 minutes, they finish it. And then within the same day, if they don't have too much information or baggage, you can get your Trua score the same day or same afternoon. And then you can share it immediately with the sponsor. In this case, happens to be the employer. So there is
Amazing.
no technology awareness on the part of the employers or the HR people. It's the fastest and the most easiest. And they don't have to worry about, am I walking on eggshells? Oh my God, I saw a DUI. What do I do with this? It's already been verified by the individual. And more
Great.
importantly, the state statutes are also mapped with it, meaning if the state says you cannot take into consideration a DUI that shows up, that is more than 5 years, our system will address that without
Mm.
any issue.
Incredible. So needed. You have a big event coming up in DC, September 10th and
Yeah, we
11th,
have an
Identity
identity
Week.
week, and then we're also at the HR Tech Conference in Las Vegas in a couple of weeks.
What are some of
Um,
the themes that you're going to be top of mind there? What are some of the trends you're, interested in tapping into?
yeah, one of
What's
the
new?
things that we are very say, hey, on board the same day.
Mm.
No regulation requirement. Think about all of the potential lawsuits that for wrongful hires or wrongful claims hey, you didn't give me a job, you didn't get because of X, Y, and Z. No, 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 no. You already verified all your information ahead of time. So you don't have to worry about litigation. You don't have to worry about all of the compliance burden that you have to go through in bringing a candidate on board. And it's literally 24-hour onboarding.
Wow.
That's the biggest takeaway. And we're a lot less expensive compared to the industry standard because it's
Interesting.
done by third party. Today, 95, 99% of the companies that provide employment screening are regulated. Ours is the first non-regulated approach.
Fantastic. And there's such a hiring uh, uh, chaos out there right now with Gen AI and AI generated resumes and bots, and it I mean, bringing order to this process seems like a must have. What are your thoughts on, this
Very
wave of
simple, right?
chaos
So
that's
it's a very
overwhelming
simple,
HR?
yes. It's a very simple process because HR is inundated with thousands of resumes. In fact, I read a
Mm,
post not too long ago just about that. So wouldn't it be great for they say, hey, you want to apply for this job, you go get your Trua ID. Now, Trua has two components, Trua ID piece and then Trua score, which is the full
mm,
background, right? Trua ID is just, we will reimburse you. It costs you maybe $1 or
mm,
less, right? We can reimburse them or it's part of doing business and tell the candidates to get your Trua ID. And then when they submit the resume, it comes with a Trua ID to the recruiter. The
mm,
recruiter knows for sure this is not a bot. Think about the power of that because that Trua ID is embedded in your PDF resume, for example, right? Oh, this is a verified resume, not from a bot, and somebody took the time to send it to me, not automatically was sent by your job board database. When they say, hey,
mhm,
we can automatically send the resume to all these open jobs, and that's a problem. You need to have a human behind it because we are all victims of this quote unquote automation
mm,
slash convenience. And so, yeah, I want to apply. That means you're not genuinely looking at the job, the matching requirement, because some of these AI, it's based on buzzwords, right? So
mm,
people use all the buzzwords and everything. We cannot do subjective verification. We can do objective verification. The subjective is you can inflate your resume with all the accomplishments. We cannot verify that, obviously, right? That you can verify based on an interview, in-person interview or a Zoom interview, whatever it is. But before you talk to the person on the Zoom, you know for sure that person is who they say they are, not from North Korea.
mm.
That is
Would
a
be
big
nice.
issue going on in recruitment right now.
No, it's chaos, and there needs to be order brought, and it's such an important thought. Any final call to action for the folks listening, watching
This
this
is
episode?
Yeah, this is a very easy thing to obtain. It's not rocket science. If you know TSA PreCheck, this is TSA PreCheck for digital age. That means you can be sure of the individual's background and also the verification of the identity. So a lot of background check vendors don't perform identity proofing because remote hires and whatnot. So you need to have that as part of the whole verification process and onboard the next day. That's
That
a,
would be
the
incredible.
biggest.
Well,
That's the biggest benefit for HR and hiring, especially in the next 3 to 5 years. There's lots and lots of jobs that are going to be reshored here. Reshoring is the big deal going on, and you don't want bombarded with bot resumes. You want real people. So say, hey, go get your Trua score. We'll reimburse you, okay, or a Trua ID. It's a couple of bucks or whatever it is, and then you apply only with a Trua ID. Otherwise, don't bother applying. It's as simple as that. You can verify. You can put that as part of your job description, and then you can reject on your end with using AI. If it doesn't have Trua ID, you don't have to interview them. because you've already said that you need to have Trua credential as part of your applying for a job.
Seems so
I don't
simple,
mind
so
even giving
important.
out to. I don't mind even giving out the Trua
Mm,
ID piece, which is I said I don't mind
mm,
because this is a societal thing that I'm fighting,
mm,
right? Societal problem. So
mm,
all the college graduates, for example, there are, I think, plus or minus last year 4 million college graduates, both 2 year and 4 year, and they're
mm,
all coming up for jobs, right? And they're getting bombarded with all the bot resumes, and people who are genuinely qualified are missing out on this. The best way to solve some of that is, hey, every resume should have a true ID as part of it. And then when you get it on the other end, that means at least you have qualified the individual, and that you have verified the identity of the individual. And then you have a subjective interview, which is, do you really know the subject matter? So I would love to give it out to college students if I can, and say, hey, get ready for employment. A year from now, you're going to be you're a senior now. You're going to get jobs, and then tell them that you're already verified and you already verified background as well. It's easy for them to say, oh, I have a candidate that's verified and no criminal record or whatever it is. Boom, done. They can do additional diligence if they want to, based on their requirement, but it's easy onboarding, same day onboarding.
incredible work. Thanks so much for the update. Everyone, let's get behind this. It's not just a technology, it's really a movement. And thanks, Raj, for the update, and good luck with the activity as we headed now into September.
Yep. Thank you, Evan. Appreciate it.
Appreciate you. Thanks, everyone, for listening, watching, and sharing. Take care.